Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Between the Sharks. Today, I'm going to do a once-over on this Machpro MP-S300 mini skid steer, track loader, whatever you want to call this thing. We're going to take a closer look at it today. There are not many videos on these pieces of equipment, despite how popular they are becoming. So in this video, we'll talk about the cost of the machine. We'll take a close look at all the connections, all the parts and pieces, kind of an assess of build quality on the thing. And then we'll do a quick how to start up these things and operate them in case you find yourself in a situation like I was in, where you buy it and it gets delivered and somehow you got to get it off a trailer or some other thing, having never laid eyes on a piece of machinery quite like this before. So I bought this at the Ritchie Brothers Southeast auction event in March. I paid all in $3,691.50 for this machine. I bid to $3,000. I won the auction. The $691 and change was all in taxes and Ritchie Brothers fees. Now, I give you the price on this for two reasons. One, you may be shopping for one and wonder how it turned out with the auctions or whatever. Two, figure out if you're going to bid on something, you know, how much the fees and taxes add up. It is written in the small print, but that's just what it turned out to be on this machine. But also for this and all future videos, we're not going to be comparing this to big brand names, Kubota, Bobcat, Caterpillar, like things that this is not. But what we are going to do over the course of time, if you're interested, subscribe, is find out if this thing is really worth the 3,600 bucks. My suspicion is yes, it's going to be worth the 3,600 bucks in back savings and or alternative ways of doing the work, either hiring it out, renting equipment that may be a better quality or whatever. But that's what we're gonna use our number for. Is it worth what we paid for it? When I was looking at these machines, there seemed to be three different styles that had a lot of similarities, but the major difference that stuck out was the drive system. So this track system was what I was after, only because that's what I see on the good quality equipment that moves earth around. And I knew this thing was not going to be working on improved surfaces. It's going to be mostly working on dirt. So I went after this shape. Now they also sold versions of this that had tracks that looked like, well, like that, without the that goes there. Honestly, I don't know the difference if this shape is better, but for some reason it felt mo better. So this is the one I was after. In addition to the two track styles, they do have wheeled versions of this, which again, you know, I don't know, maybe that would have been better for my needs, but I'm pretty sure tracks are better for the kind of terrain I'm going to be working on here. So I've only got about a half hour on this machine, driving it off the trailer into the garage and then tinkering with it, trying to learn the controls the other day. So I haven't done the proper once over that I should have done with it. Just checked the oil, basically added gas and fired it up, and it did run. But let's take a look at the overall quality. First thing that jumps out at me is the quality of the branding. It's pretty weak. In fact, they never even pulled off the clear part of this sticker. What I mean is, that's how it should be, you know, even though it's a little jammed up. We can fix that. There we go. Look at that. Oh, no, we lost the M. Maybe we'll just leave that alone. Perfect, perfect. But that should be a good indication to anyone buying these that Machpro as a brand and MP-S300 should mean very little to anyone. I would imagine, die mosquito. I would imagine there are many machines out there wearing different names that are the exact same setup. So the body of the machine seems to be constructed at a 1/4 inch. The big boom arm over halves, and that's about 9/16 plate. The machine came outfitted as you see it, where it has auxiliary hydraulic lines already built in for attachments, and it came with this 42-inch bucket. It is drilled for teeth. I believe these are Bobcat style teeth. We're about to find out because I ordered a set, so we'll see if they actually fit. Now, some of you will be more familiar with the bucket attachment styles than I am, but this is, whatever this is the attachment style. Here's what we got for information. MP-S300, operating mass 650 kilograms. I believe it's the dry weight of the machine. And in case anybody's trying to find information, I haven't been to this website yet to see what it has, or email them to see what they have. The only information that came with this machine is this book on the gasoline engine. The mini excavator that I bought has a manual for the entire machine. Speaking of the gasoline engine, this did not come with a Briggs & Stratton. Most of them are advertised as a Briggs & Stratton powered machine. I guess the Machpros don't, maybe some of them do. That might be something to look out for if you care. I mean, I care, but like, this is what I got. This thing is just a generic 420cc The fuel tank is a little bit hard to get to. This is the fuel tank shutoff, and then way back in there is the oil dipstick, which is kind of an inconvenient truth that it's a little bit hard to reach. Up front we have the hydraulic oil tank and a single pump on this motor. So let's say you buy one of these at auction, you pay a broker on U-Ship to send it to your door, and it ends up on a trailer outside your house in traffic with a very impatient and irritated driver. How do you get this thing off? Well, let's go through the startup procedure. Step one, you should check the oil. Make sure the machine has oil in it before you try to start it up. On this machine, that's way in here. So now this thing claims that there's an oil dipstick on the end of the oil screw cap thing. But if we go on this machine, pull it apart, there is not one, and there has not been one. So I do the old jam the old finger in there, see if you get to the oil level, and there we go. We got oil in it. So it seems to be that full is at the level of the bottom of the thread. So I just check it like a rear end. I just use my hand and find out where the oil level is. That said, got some 30 weight. Just as a comparison, this is regular 30 weight oil. Someone in the comments at some point suggested there wasn't actually oil in these engines when they're shipped, that it's some stand-in lubricant. But I would say the viscosity test in my hand suggests that this is some kind of legit motor oil in this thing. The instructions say change it after 5 hours. Everyone's wondering about the longevity of these things, and I will say that the one piece of information I learned somewhere on YouTube was that some people's issues are derived from not changing the break-in oil at 5 hours, which causes all of the break-in material to kind of wear away at the engine too fast, and I believe it. So we will keep an eye on the clock. This one, speaking of, does have an hour meter. So once you've checked the oil and you are confident there is indeed oil, guy's gonna want to come over here, and there is a fuel on off switch. You can kind of see it marked here. When I received the machine, the fuel thing was on. It does have a pull start, which is interesting, but this thing also has a starter and a battery. This is in a very inconvenient location. So I had a series of funnels that allowed me to get some fuel in this. In fact, there's very little fuel in it now. No fuel gauge, but you know, there it is. The controls are relatively simple. If you have not used one of these machines, it drives like you'd imagine a tank would. Each one of these controls a track when you move it forward or backwards. And then the left-hand side moves the boom up and down, as in the picture, and the right-hand side moves the bucket up and down when you move them right to left. Now, starting this thing is basically like a lawnmower. You got the rabbit turtle machine, you have a choke, hour meter, lights, horn, key. Basically, all you got to do is choke it a little bit, set it somewhere in this area, and just give it a whirl. Right off. So up here we got a sight glass for the hydraulic oil tank. When it's time to fill that up, you're either gonna have to fish something in there, or you're gonna have to pop this plate off, it seems like. The exhaust comes out through this pipe, which is why this is dripping. This machine was outside at the Ritchie Brothers lot. Since I've had it, it was inside. But like when I fired it up the first time, we spit a lot of moisture out of there. So just be aware of that as well. So we'll try this one more time. Choke is still on. Fire it up. We're at 0.6 hours. We want this boom to go up. There we go. Shut her down. I mean, don't you wish every gasoline engine you had started like that? I'm not unimpressed. I'm gonna do my very best to keep these things maintained. I'm trying not to put too much fuel in, so the fuel doesn't sit in the tank for any period of time and collect moisture. So this machine came with standard Zerk style fittings, with one exception. This one cylinder has whatever this other style is, one on the top and then one right down there. That one's greased. This one looks dry, so I will see if I can swap that out with a Zerk fitting and grease that as well while we're at it. Here I have a standard grease gun. Apparently I've been using this thing incorrectly for 20 years. Let me show you. So here's a brand new tip so you can see it. I've been doing this wrong for years. If you tighten this thing, those claws right in there grab on to the Zerk fitting. So that leaves us free to pump this grease with two hands and really get it in there. You can see it kind of can see it coming out of that knuckle right now. All right, that's greased. Loosen this up. So everything on the machine is all greased up. We just went around one more time. There was one dry fitting that I missed earlier in the upper part of this hydraulic cylinder. But I would say on all these machines, they're a little bit notorious for like stuff like that. Missing a grease spot during assembly, a loose bolt, whatever. That said, I think the break-in period, both for the machine and the driver, will indicate loose stuff before major damage occurs, assuming you're paying attention, which you do need to pay attention on these. There's not any safety features anywhere on the machine. So my first impressions after a half hour of use are this thing is extremely easy to operate. It is very smooth to operate, even when you're doing two functions at the same time. Like if you're driving and raising the bucket, it still works very smoothly. In addition, there's enough horsepower in this engine to drive this machine and move it under relatively low throttle. So as you're new, you can keep the throttle low, keeps the speeds low, and then you can learn how to operate the machine pretty safely. And I would say the learning curve is pretty quick. A couple more things about this machine. First of all, there are a ton of attachments available for this machine and this size machine. They're a little hard to find regularly, but Ritchie Brothers carries them, and as these things are quickly gaining popularity because they really do fill a void between professional and consumer, like prosumer, whatever you want to call it. This is not commercial grade, but it will do commercial grade work for a period of time, like lower duty cycle, fewer hours, I'm sure, in longevity. But basically, this is going to get some work done for a guy like me, who is a beyond do-it-yourselfer projector. Like, I do everything myself. I like projects, I like big projects, and this is certain to make short work of projects that used to be a shovel and pickaxe kind of situation for a guy like me. The other thing the rumor mill says about these machines is the parts are very serviceable and replaceable, orderable off the internet when they break. Everything from the cylinders to the tracks. Engines are replaceable with engines available at even Harbor Freight. The Predator series, they say. Now, I don't know anything about that because I haven't had anything break just yet, but the promise of serviceability is a big deal for me because, well, if I can do it myself, I'm gonna do it myself. So ladies and gentlemen, that's going to about do it for the once over on this machine. If you're interested in these things or any of the projects on this channel, consider subscribing because I bought this thing not to review, but indeed to put it to work. In fact, I plan to grade with it, I plan to demo with it, and I plan to do a ton of landscaping work with it. So we'll see how it holds up. We'll see how it performs in all of those situations. We're in with this thing for the long haul, and my first impressions are it's going to serve just swimmingly. So I hope this helped you out if you're interested in one of these machines, because there's not that much information on them out there yet. So stick around and consider subscribing if you want to see how this thing performs over time. We are in with this thing for the long haul, and my first impressions are it is going to do a ton of solid work for us around this property. So as I pulled it back into the garage, I realized there are two other features that are worth noting on this machine that I don't know if they are universal. The first one we can't really see, but trust me, down there, that blue box is a radiator for the hydraulic oil that has an electric fan on it that runs all the time that the motor is running. That is a big deal. I don't know if they all come with that or not, but that is a decent feature. This machine, however, does not come with a battery cutoff, which I'd prefer to have one while I store it. This machine does come with one, and that's the only reason I find it noteworthy. Not that installing a battery cutoff switch is particularly difficult. It is a nice feature to have. So we probably will install one day to just save on the battery just in case. All right, over and out.